One. Whoa, 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 whoa. I'm Rodd Duff, your host.
And I'm producer Barbie.
And together,
we bring you our podcast,
Insights and Straight Talk. And with that, producer Barbie and I are out. We're not really out. We're still here. But that's a beautiful scene, isn't it? That's PCH. It's where Barbie is right now with her grandkids and where I'm from and where we originated from. I was so excited when I started digging in to prepare for this episode, because finally I may get some answers that I so desperately need to know. And so, good morning and welcome to Insights and Straight Talk. Go ahead, grab your coffee, grab your tea. Hurry up! Come on! Grab your kombucha. Oh, and if you don't know what kombucha is, that's okay. It just means you either trust your gut instinct or you do not trust jars with things floating in them. Both are fair. And since this is the Christmas holiday week, this feels like the right moment to take a breath, slow down, and slow down just enough to talk about something that usually gets ignored until life forces the issue. Patterns. Not market patterns, not political cycles, but personal ones. Here's something that might land a little hard, especially during the holidays when people, like now, tend to reflect a little more. Most people are not failing at life, okay? They're simply running on a subconscious pattern they never chose. Especially here across in America's great middle class, I see the same thing over and over again. Hardworking people, capable people, good, solid people. They do the right things. They show up, right? They care, and they keep ending up in the same place. Same money stress, same relationship tension, same burnout. My God, right? Same quiet thought that says, I should be further along than this. And that thought burns in your head at 1:30 in the morning, right? So let me say this clearly. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You're wired. And wiring beats willpower every single time. You do not live according to your goals, folks. You live according to your frequency. That word, we use that word a lot here on this show, and it gets misunderstood, but it is simple. Your internal signal was formed long before adulthood, before careers, before marriages, before mortgages, right? Before anyone told you who you were supposed to be. It was shaped by how safety felt to you, how love showed up, how chaos entered the rooms, and how you learned to survive any or all of that. Once that signal is set, it quietly determines what you attract, what you tolerate, what you chase, and what you sabotage right before it begins to work. Here's the jaw-dropping moment. You cannot outwork frequency that you are still transmitting. Stick with that for a second. You can't outwork a frequency that you're still transmitting. You can hustle harder, of course. You can read another book. You can pray more. We will get into that. You can try harder. But if your internal signal is fear, scarcity, or to prove yourself over and over, life will keep matching that signal. And that's not a punishment. That's alignment. which brings us to today's guest. Today, we are joined by David Bederman, behavioral strategist, spiritual teacher, and creator of the Personality Code. David's work blends ancient Kabbalistic wisdom with modern behavioral science, or psychology, I should say. And what he shows people is both mystical and practical. Human behavior is not random. It's a pattern. It's patterned. And fear is not weakness. Fear is intelligence stuck in survival mode, or like I used to call, is intelligence misplaced. Fear rarely shows up as fear, though. It shows up as overworking and calling it ambition, procrastination and calling it perfectionism, control and calling it leadership, people pleasing and calling it kindness. Come on. Emotional shutdown and calling it strength. Me. That's not failure. That is outdated protection. When stress hits, sorry. Hold on, guys. Sorry about that. I got to turn my phone off. So when stress hits, logic leaves the room. No, in my case, it's leaving the building. Survival frequency is excellent at keeping you alive, right? But you know what? It's terrible at helping you build a meaningful life. Here's the second jaw-dropping moment I had. Most self-sabotage is not self-destruction. It's self-preservation based on an old map. That's why smart people stall. Why loving people push others away. Why capable leaders burn out. Why money comes in and finds a way to leave. And why positive thinking does not fix it. You cannot manifest beyond the identity you have not yet examined. This conversation goes deeper than motivation. That's not what we're here for in this. We talk about identity, responsibility, attraction, purpose, and meaning without preaching or pretending. David speaks plainly, okay? He goes deep fast, and you know I love that. And he explains things people have felt their entire lives, but have never had the language for. So during this Christmas holiday week, when many people are reflecting, questioning, and quietly searching for clarity, this conversation matters. If you've ever felt stuck in patterns you cannot explain, personally, financially, or emotionally, then you know what? Stay with us. Because sometimes the breakthrough doesn't come from trying harder. Sometimes it comes from realizing you were never broken. You were just running on an old program. Welcome to Insights and Straight Talk with your host, Rodd Duff, and the ever-present producer, Barbie, and Mr. David Bederman. Let's get into it. How you doing, brother?
Thanks for having me, Rod. Happy to be here.
It's good to have you here. I understand. We've got about 150 people on right now. That's early. Wow. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you being here. I didn't know how to react with the holiday season. Are you in Tel Aviv? Did I see that on some of the information?
That's right. Tel Aviv, Israel.
Wow. That's from across the pond for sure. What time is it there right now?
Now it's about almost 7 o'clock.
PM, right? I assume.
Yes, sir.
PM at night.
That's
and the holiday season. How's that? How is that in Tel Aviv? Because it's a different.
So we celebrate the mystical holiday of Hanukkah. So we have 8 nights of celebration, and we just finished. Yesterday was the last day. So miraculous time, a lot of celebrations, and yeah.
It's a beautiful. Oh wow, we already have questions coming in. Oh my God. Great. Okay. We'll get to that a little bit. So you're in the spirit that's a beautiful set of traditions and something I've always been fascinated and interested in. But with that said, what's your story? What's your journey? You know, we talked a little bit back in the green room, and you didn't touch those green peanuts, did you? Please.
No.
You're a tough one. You're a tough one. I'm trying to get you to chuckle up a little bit here. But did in your life, you obviously are bringing things in your book and on your journey forward that are critical. As I said in the opening monologue, you know, this is something that I'm very excited about. One, you know, talking about God, obviously we'll get into that, and about relationships, about financial stresses, and these patterns that keep us moving in the same cycle until we start analyzing that cycle. And I'm really curious to see how that works, because I'd like to practice it myself. So what's the journey that brought you on to the journey that brought you here with us today?
So I was living on an old sailboat off the coast of Vancouver Island, Canada, and sailing around to the most beautiful Gulf Islands, scuba diving in one of the best locations in the world. I had a great business, and on the outside everything looked perfect, but inside I was just not happy. I was sad. I felt disconnected from myself, and I was very alone. And I looked around me and I saw happiness. I saw people who were happy, but I didn't know how to access that myself. And so I didn't know where a Jewish boy should start looking for the meaning of life and the meaning of happiness. So I traveled to the biblical land of Israel, and I wound up in the ancient city, the old city of Jerusalem, where I discovered a 3,000-year-old secret from the ancient success wisdom of Kabbalah that talks about how we act, how we attract, and how we behave. And I call it the personality code. And this was kind of my journey to discovering how to be happier and how to live a more fulfilling life.
So let's dive into that 3,000-year-old wisdom. And by the way, congratulations! You've got like 65,000 TikTok followers.
Yeah,
Did I read that right?
Yeah. And I'm very fortunate that my message is resonating, and I'm on a mission to share this wisdom and to help people access more happiness, more fulfillment, and more love in their lives.
So get into the code a little bit. Let's kind of dive in. So you discovered this book in Jerusalem, correct? Am I correct when you said that?
Yeah, a system. I mean, the Kabbalah literally means to receive, and it's the mystical secrets of success for how to live a more fulfilling life. And basically, this was the more than a book. It's a system. It's a mystical teachings.
Right.
Yeah, and it really describes the kind of like when you in the Matrix, when you see all of the code coming down the screen. It's like the Kabbalah describes the source code to the universe, much like if you were on a web page and you click view source and you see all the HTML code, but then the browser translates that into, you know, the pictures and the words on the screen. So too, the Kabbalah is describing the building blocks of creation to help us understand who we are, why we're here, and how to live a more fulfilling life.
So what does that look like? So if it's not a book, it's a system. But if it was a book, what would the foreword look like? Like, what is it? I'm not familiar with this, and just to get, I know it's a framework, but for us to gain that framework about what it is, give it a little bit more. What does it look like? It's the code. Okay, so how is it leading you into that discussion in the system?
So basically, most people would probably say that behavior is random, that, you know, they are the way they are. And most people see people who are like them in a favorable light. You know, we like people who are like us, or people who possess qualities that we aspire towards, like they're successful or they're confident. So those are people we relate to. And then people who are not like us, you know, we kind of think that they've missed the message. But the truth is that there's actually a organized system to behavior. And when you understand this system, then you're able to achieve more. And it also helps you improve yourself because it exposes the places where we all get stuck, the places, the unconscious patterns that we all have, but we don't see. And so
How does it expose that? How does it expose that?
So when you take light and you shine it through a prism, so you get the 7 component colors of the rainbow, right? So too, according to the ancient wisdom of Kabbalah, there's one infinite life source. There's one infinite energy permeating this world. This is the energy of the Creator, the energy of God. And when this infinite energy, in ancient Hebrew, it's called the Or Ein Sof, the infinite light. When this light of life comes into the world, it refracts into 10 component energies. And these are the energies that we experience all around us, Rodd. These are the energy of kindness, the energy of strength, the energy of wisdom, the energy of success, right? All of these energies we experience in the world around us, like the energy of a beautiful flower, Hod, right? The energy of being breathtaking, by something beautiful. All of these 10 component energies are the building blocks of the physical world. But what's fascinating and what I discovered was that each person is also coming through one of these 10 energies, and that defines their life journey. It defines their strengths and what they're good at, and it also defines the places that they get stuck. So we can see behavior instead of just this random exercise of discovering and being ourselves in the world. We can actually start to understand that there are 10 main patterns of behavior, and that really gives a lot of power to our own individual journeys in life. But it can also dramatically help us upgrade the quality of our relationships, because now we can now understand the people that we're interacting with, not only in love, but in our families, in our businesses. We can start to see people and access and understand which of the 10 energies they're coming through. And so it improves our ability to communicate and to relate with people and to understand ourselves.
So if I understand this correctly, God has a light, an energy source coming into the world, and then that is refracted. I'm not saying that right, am I? Refracted.
I think refracted, yeah.
Refracted, yeah. And in these 10 different energy forms, you mentioned love being one of them. And in that form, I now am coming to Earth as a creature, a person. My mom's giving me birth, and I'm coming through that energy source. So that's where my base is coming from, is building out from. Is that what you're saying in that statement you just made?
Sure. Like, yes, that each one of us is kind of playing a role. It's like a metaphor for what the experience of life is, could be called divine improv. Like we're all here on this stage of life, and we've all been handed these parts to play in this improv, and the parts are, David Bederman and Rodd Duff, and who are you, and what's this character that you're playing? And you're kind of developing your character spontaneously as you go through life, and as you deal with the situations that the life gives you, and but at the same time, there are certain qualities to each of our individual journeys. So we all know the caretaker or the people pleaser, and we know the perfectionist, and we know the success driven person, and we know the easygoing, fun-loving person, and we know the control freak and the power, and none of these are good or bad, but there are 10 different journeys and 10 different characters, and everyone on the stage of life is coming through one of those journeys. and these are the characters that we play. And yeah, and each one of us is given is kind of given a part, and so you might look at it as 10 component colors, and we're all given, there's like a paint, there's like a paintbrush set of colors in life. And so we're each kind of given a primary color. And so we're all kind of painting our own canvas of life with our color. And maybe that's the color of kindness, or maybe it's the color of control and power. Maybe it's the color of success. And so that's what we're really good at. But it's also the place where we get stuck, right? Your strength is also your limitation. And so while we all have this kind of unconscious way of responding to life with the color that we've been given, we actually have access to all of these 10 colors. And according to Kabbalah, the journey of life is learning how to paint with all of these different energies, and learning how to show up and respond to life and to the people in our lives in the way that we can best serve the world. And that happens when we are able to understand our own unconscious patterns, and then learn to, more consciously access some of the different powers and the different potential that is there for each of us.
All right, you must have been watching our questions, because you just set yourself up perfectly for the adventure show here. First, they say great pacing and deep insights. I love it when another show comes on. It's really, really cool. I don't know if you know them or if you've been on the show or something, but anyway. But what the reason I said what I said is that show then went on to say, how can someone identify their unconscious identity pattern? Which is just right now what we're just going over is perfect timing.
So the beautiful thing about this life that we're living in, this world that we, fabulous, great question. The beautiful thing about this world that we're living in is that it's a magnetic universe, meaning we are always attracting the people and situations who will shine a light on the places that we need to grow. So whether
that we need to grow,
where we need to grow. And so how to identify your unconscious identity pattern? Well, it's always revealed in the places that you get stuck. And so the first thing I would say is to look at where are the patterns where are the places that you keep getting stuck. For example, in a relationship, your romantic partner is always going to be the person that triggers you. And any place that you are getting triggered in life, that's the place that's the place where you can see your unconscious patterns. We don't notice them on the side that we're strong at, but it's very easy to notice the places that you become emotional. And that's really the beginning. That's kind of the entry point into discovering your unconscious patterns, is looking at the places where do I keep getting stuck? What are the situations that trigger me to become emotional? And that's the first place to start.
You've used the word emotional twice right there. When you say emotional, great, and obviously great answer. You're the expert, so obviously a great answer. But in that answer, you said where you get triggered, and then you use the word emotional. When you say emotional, are you saying emotional as in I'm being affected by what's happening? I'm sad, or I'm in fear, or what is the, because emotion can be high or low, right? Depending on what it is. Are you saying either one of those, emotional happiness or despair?
I'm more talking about the places where
no feeling at all. If you're just going through it and it's not really it's just a thing, then you're okay. You're mature there. You don't need, but if you're being affected by that, is that what you mean? That's a better way to put that.
Yeah, I call it the unconscious emotional patterns, right? The UEPs, the places where we kind of become children. The things that make us angry, the things that make us sad, the situations that
Okay.
trigger us into an unwanted, often negative emotional experience. Though we all have certain places that we get triggered. Whether it's abandonment, whether it's getting insulted, there's certain triggers we all have, and oftentimes it's the same ones happening over and over. So if someone's a perfectionist, right, when things don't go as planned, or if someone is getting insulted, but I'm talking about the often unwanted negative emotional experiences that we have. Those are the places that really have a lot of power for us in discovering and in accessing more of our own power. And usually, when we get triggered, when we feel insulted, or when we get angry, or when we get sad or anxious or depressed, right, we try to avoid those situations, and we often get mad at the people who made us mad. Don't speak to me that way, don't disrespect me. But the truth is that whenever a person or a situation causes us to have a strong negative emotional reaction, instead of that being a bad thing that we causes us to get angry, that's actually a moment that we should celebrate, because those emotional triggers hold the greatest power in helping us discover and unlocking more of our power that we might not be accessing.
So just a little bit of a juxtaposition here, if I'm using that correctly. Those triggers, depending on how you react. So if you just keep doing the same thing over and over again, then the same thing over and over again. But you're saying now you're utilizing those to discover, to look inside you and say, okay, this is an area I need to fix. This is some work I got to do here. And
Exactly.
what it really means is start living your life, participating in your life, right? Observing. Really, where you're looking at is recognizing, seeing, observing that's happening, and now you need to take the responsibility to work from the inside out and work on those things. Are there patterns? What does that work look like? There's a couple really good questions, but I'm tempted to stay on this topic for a second, because so now you irritated me, right? I got angry. I got upset. Okay, that's a trigger. And it's a consistent thing in my life. That situation caused that reaction. Okay. Now, if I'm doing the right thing, I'm recognizing that. If I'm seeing that code, that frequency, I'm recognizing that, and now I know I need to do work.
Right.
How
But
does
what
your
most people
system
do,
take it from there? Okay, go ahead.
well, for example, you gave a great example, something, you got angry. And so most of the time when something makes you angry, so our automatic response is, you made me angry, right? You said something and it caused me to be angry. My anger is your fault. And you used a great word, right? You used responsibility. But responsibility is actually two words. It's your response ability. It's your ability to respond. And your ability to respond to life is actually dependent on how much responsibility you are taking for your life. And this is where most people are giving up all of their power. They're giving their power away, because when you believe that somebody made you angry, then you're not in control of your life, right? The person who made you angry, they control how you feel. And so the key to living a more fulfilling life, the key to accessing more power and more success in your own life, starts with taking 100% responsibility for how you feel. And so when somebody makes you angry, the way you want to translate that is, right, why am I feeling angry? What is the belief that I'm having about this situation that is generating these feelings inside? And so when I say we have to take 100% responsibility for how we feel, it means understanding that I am creating my own feelings. Now, it always comes back to the same place. If somebody says something that makes me angry, well, why do I feel angry? Because I'm often believing that there's something not okay with me, that I'm not enough, I'm not good enough. And that's the feeling, that's the belief that's creating this feeling of anger. But most of the time, we're not taking responsibility. We're blaming the other person. We're blaming life for not giving me what I deserve, right? And so if life's not giving me what I deserve, well, there must be something wrong with me. And that's what's causing the anger or the feelings of resentment. So the way to upgrade your life is to take responsibility for how you're feeling and recognizing that your own beliefs are creating those feelings. And that's why when somebody says or does something that makes you feel that way, that's why it's a gift. That's why we should actually be grateful for that experience, because now it gives me the opportunity to observe myself and start to get curious about our own thought process. What are the thoughts or the beliefs that this situation caused me to have that created these emotions? It's all within ourselves, which means all of the power to change your life is also in yourself, and it has nothing to do with anyone else. But everyone else will always bring me exactly what I need.
I can see why you've got 65,000 followers on TikTok. That was awesome, man. That was because we talk a lot about this type of subject on this show, and that was beautiful, man. That was gorgeous.
Thank you.
Which I'm not telling you anything you already don't know, and you're welcome. Let me take a quick second here, though. I forgot to, in starting up the show, to thank one of our sponsors, the Mangum City Library, that gives us this beautiful facility to come out in. They support our regeneration school project, and also Leaf Lab, a newer sponsor now, that works with us in developing what we call the Regeneration School Project and Voices at the Table. So this program works. This program is talking about things that are very important to this show. So I really appreciate having you on. Let me just go into the James show. Oh, another show, James show. Boy, we got a couple shows on today. You're bringing in the shows, brother. So good question here. I think is fear learned? Because I've always heard, we have fear because now I don't know if this is the way that he's projecting it, because I know fear is a big part of your program, in discussion in your program, but I don't know if these are two separate things though. As when we were cavemen, fear allowed us to run away, right? We could run away. And you know how you can, I say we have a 6 foot vibe, a frequency around us. So like if you can feel somebody coming up behind you, I don't know, is this the same thing, or are we 1 foot in each side of the canyon there?
So this is a great question. Is fear learned or is it hardwired in our personality code? I would say the answer is both. On one level, fear is hardwired into all of us because it's our fundamental survival mechanism. But
Right.
on the other hand, it's learned because our sense of fear is always evolving, and it's evolving according to our own development. So when we're younger, or if you're starting a business and you've never been on camera before, so being on camera
Mm.
is scary. But the more you become familiar, the more you get used to it, the less fear that you have. But the fear that any of us experiences is always coming back to the same place, which is a fear coming from a fear of death, a fear for our safety. So most of the fear that we experience is, I would say, hardwired to our ego, right? Our ego is is the
Yep.
part of us, is the self-image that we develop when we're 4 or 5 years old, about what the world is and who we need to be in the world in order to survive. And so, if somebody grows up and they're coming through the lens of helping, if they're a helper, so they feel safe when they are helping other people get their needs met. And these are great people to have as teachers or as therapists or as parents, right? Because the helper personality is very, very focused on helping other people get their needs met, and they're very sensitive and they're very empathic. So they feel best about themselves. They feel safe when they're helping other people. Well, where does fear come up for a helper? Fear comes up when they try to express their own beliefs, when they, right? The idea of saying no to somebody else is very scary for
Oh,
someone who's coming through the lens of a helper. And so for them, the place they get stuck and the things that they're afraid of, that holds the greatest opportunity for growth. And for them, their journey is all about learning how to set boundaries, which means learning how to say yes to themselves and say no to other people, right? Instead of they always say yes to everybody else. That's the
always
classic
right.
case of the helper. Well, they end up saying yes to too many requests, and so they end up saying no to themselves. And so the idea of expressing their own ideas is very scary. But that fear is all about, well, if I don't put other people's needs before my own, well, then I won't be loved, right? And this is likely the message that they got growing up. If they're the good girl or the good boy, then they get love and praise. And then when they express any of their own needs, they're often experiencing some form of rejection, right? So the fear for them comes up, and I always say that the fear is your compass, right? If there isn't a person with a gun, or if there isn't a tiger right opposite you growling, then if you're not in actual physical danger, then any fear that we experience in life outside of physical danger is actually a compass pointing us exactly in the direction of our greatest growth and our greatest potential.
Oh, wow. I'm gonna hijack the show a little bit here right now. Um, Loving what you're saying here. In that, I'm connecting dots, and I want to get to your book in a second before we get back to some questions here, because I think it's the perfect timing for that. But right at the end of your sentence, I know myself personally. That's why I said at the opening of the show, I may get to learn some things that I desperately wanted to know for a long time. So I'm very ambitious about the outcome of this show, this episode. Um, so my question to you is: every once in a while, I just get, and I was accepted to be the columnist for the Mangum Star. Something I want to do. I love writing. I write a lot. So and the day I heard that, and some financial things came through, and some good things, and I'm on my way into the show, the thing I love to do, and just all of a sudden this, and it doesn't last that long, but out of nowhere, this like dread, or not panic, but dread kind of comes over me. Why would that be?
Well, it sounds like you're
Or is it
you're
too
exper
complex? Am
well,
I
it
giving you
it
enough?
sounds like you're experiencing a level of success. It sounds like you're accessing some opportunities that you've been looking forward to for a while. And what's interesting is that while we all say that we want success, the truth
Right?
is we're actually very afraid of success. And what we are comfortable with is mediocrity, right? It's success that actually scares us. And this is
Why?
why procrastination and self-sabotage come up, because
Absolutely.
actually
Because then
self-sabotage
you
and
got a
procrastination.
you got a new level. You got a success means you got to now be at this level all the time. Is that why that
Yes.
fear?
Well,
Okay.
it's not actually about being at a level, it's about becoming somebody new. right? If you're used to making $50,000 a year, and and nobody's reading your writing, and then all of a sudden you get a $250,000 book deal, and you got 1 million people reading your writing, all of a sudden it's like, well, who is that guy? Who is the Rodd Duff that shows up to a 1 million person audience and has a $1 million book deal? Well, I don't know. I've only been the $50,000 a year guy until now. And so our personality is kind of like this. It's like this character that we have generated at a very young age on who we are and how we need to show up in the world. But all of a sudden, to access a new level actually means to become a new person. It means to respond to life differently than I have until now. And for me to become a new person means the old person has to die. For me to become the speaker and the coach who's leading retreats around the world and who has not 65,000 followers, but 65 million followers, that's a whole new level. And that requires a whole new set of behaviors. It's a whole new identity that I need to take on. And so just like a snake who's shedding its skin, becoming somebody new is very scary for our ego. And that's why our ego gives us things like fear, like self-sabotage, because the ego doesn't recognize the potential of who you can be. The ego only sees the version of you that it created when you were very small, and everything that it's doing is to try to keep you safe, to keep you safe in the world according to a worldview that you built when you were very small. And so to let that go means, on some level, to experience death. And the mind doesn't know the difference between real danger and imagined danger. It's the very same thing. And so when we are stepping into the next version of ourselves, we have to understand that we're going to experience a lot more fear, a lot more dread, a lot more anxiety, because this is just the ego's natural response to not knowing how to safely guide us. And the truth is, we don't know. I don't know, how do I be a millionaire author and writer with millions of people around the world? I haven't been there yet. So how do I show up? How do I dress? How do I speak? What do I need to do differently? I don't know. I'm just figuring it out as I go. And that is the opposite of how the ego is wired, which means the dread and the fear that you experience as you're breaking through to the next level actually is really, really good news, because that means we're actually getting somewhere. And we should learn to respond to those things with positivity and with excitement, because the more we grow and the higher we climb, the more figuring out we're going to have to do, and the less certain that we're going to be. And that's it. Tony Robbins says the quality of your life is proportional to the level of uncertainty that you are comfortable living with.
Okay, so I'm all turned upside down here. So in my whole life, I've always, these things happen, right? And then you feel like something bad is going to happen. But what you're saying is that self-sabotage and that stuff that you're feeling is just a protection system for you that was developed as a child, as you're growing up, to be comfortable in that spot. It's the brain or the body protecting itself and its comfort level, where the opposite is actually the case. And we should start understanding that moment that I described, that dread, is actually, hey, I've gotten somewhere. Oh man, okay, so what do I got to start changing? Is that how your book proceeds?
1,000%.
Talk about your book.
1,000%.
Okay, go ahead. I want to hear a little bit more about this. I told you I'm hijacking this. I don't know. Hey, guess I don't know if I'm going to answer any more of your questions yet, because I got a line of them going here. Go ahead, David.
So the thing to remember is that all growth in life is counterintuitive, which means that the things that we think are going to get us where we want to go are actually most of the time the exact opposite. And so, yes, when you are stepping into um, a new level of success, you're going to experience a lot of unwanted feelings. And that is exactly very good news, because it means that you're stepping into your next level, and it's just your brain's natural response to uncertainty. And that's a really, really good thing. And this is why it's like most of us have been given the wrong map for how to live a successful life. Like, you land in LA and somebody's giving you a map for New York City, right? You're not going to be very successful at navigating it. So too, the map we have been given for life is seek out comfort and avoid uncertainty, avoid fear, and avoid failure, right? But actually, anyone who's ever achieved anything amazing, they have a completely opposite view of those four things. I call them the four cuffs, right? CUFF. And so if you want to live an amazing life and you want to get to your next level, you need to get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? We need to value discomfort more than we value comfort. We need to value uncertainty and step into it. And we need to embrace the creative power of failure rather than trying to avoid it, because failure is what actually allows us to create and discover new things. And we need to step into fear and learn how to use fear as a fuel rather than trying to avoid it. And so all growth is counterintuitive, 1,000%.
So we're being taught to be the great middle class and stay right there.
And that serves a
Be
lot of
happy.
people. A lot of people who control the banking system and the education system, they want a
Our
lot of
governments.
cogs for their wheel. And you should, and you see at 8:30 in the morning, stuck in traffic, we're all taught to believe that we are free. But in fact, most of us are actually slaves. And, if you ever watch the classic movie Easy Rider, there's a great monologue there
Oh
where one
yeah.
of the characters is actually, being beat to death, by some bandits. And the monologue is, we are taught to believe that we are free. But the truth is that when we're not free, we're all slaves. And when people who are slaves but are taught that they're free, when they encounter a free person, it drives them crazy, and they will kill and they will maim other people in order to protect their own belief that they are free. Because if you are a slave, when you see real freedom, it drives you crazy. And this is why, if you've ever had the experience of going out on your own and starting a new endeavor, starting a new business, it's why we get so much pushback from people in our lives and even
True.
online. It's why
True.
haters write hateful comments, because what's happening is when people who have not succeeded in their own life see somebody who is succeeding and is growing, it triggers them. And instead of recognizing, wow, this person is inspiring me, they would rather put somebody down rather than admit to themselves that they are not accessing the kind of freedom and their own potential. And so they'll put somebody else down in order to try to maintain their own illusion of freedom for themselves.
Wow. So your your this process is literally, it needs to be taken serious. First of all, because it's the opposite of everything we've grown up. Our school system teaches us to be cogs. I mean, from beginning, like you said, we need all the governmental systems, the banks, the corporate, the all of that together needs cogs, needs more cogs than they do visionaries. And so when we're born, and different situations happen to us, that all develops into our personality. But then underlying all of that, underpinning all of that, is this societal, and for generations. I mean, this is not new. This is societal, like right in through starting at the school systems. They're teaching you to be comfortable at that spot. Now it's very easy to fix that, except we don't know it until a guy like David comes along and shows us the system. I'll give you an example here. I was reading through some of these, and here we talk about a lot about being stuck. The great middle class being stuck in situations and burnout and being able to get ahead and in relationships. That's a very common place to be, let's say, a description of a place to be. Leah, film law, why does the middle class feel stuck even when working hard? And it's what we've just been talking about right there. And just wanted to bring this in right now because it's so obvious what you're saying, and yet none of us think that way. In this show, we talk, how can we get unstuck? Work harder, do this, read another Tony Robbins book, read your book. But at the end of the day, you've got to fix the system. You've got to fix the frequency. And it's this easy. It's not simple. No, I'm sorry. It's not easy, but it's simple. You got to do it. That's the not easy part. The simple part is you got to recognize that, like you just made me recognize, oh my God, something is happening and I should be welcoming this now, looking at it in a different way. Is that the way to approach Leah there? It's simple, Leah. Just you're stuck because the thing that you're fearing, or the thing that's angering you, or the thing that's giving you emotion, a level of emotion, is simply God or the universe saying, hey, okay, keep going. Look at that, right?
1,000%. And this is a great question. Why does the middle class feel stuck even when working so hard? Because typically, what is the middle class? The middle class is it's a system that taught us that, if we go through school, and then if we go to university, and then we get a degree, and then that enables us to get a good job, and then we go and we're taught that having a job and a regular paycheck so that we can afford a mortgage and buy a house and then have a family and kids, and then we're taught that will be happiness. But the challenge is that we're also the whole, I would say, middle class education system it's not teaching us how to discover and express our own unique gifts. It's not teaching us how to answer the existential question of who am I? Why was I put in this world? It's teaching us how to fit ourselves into a mold and to, become an administrator or a manager or a doctor or a lawyer, to educate ourselves into a high enough level that we can get a good job and become part of this system. And then we're working so hard. But I believe that people feel stuck when they don't know, when they feel that there is something greater that they have to express, to give to the world, but they don't have the tools on how to figure out what that is, and they don't have the tools to understand, how do I express that in the world? What does it look like? And maybe that means starting your own business. Not necessarily, but I think why people in the middle class feel so stuck when they're working so hard is because they're working hard within a system that doesn't allow them to express their natural individual gifts. And this is, Abraham Maslow, he describes like fulfillment. There's like the famous Maslow's pyramid. At the bottom, we all need safety, and we all need food and air and water, and then we need shelter and safety, and then we need love and connection. But at the top of the pyramid is self-actualization. And so once you have satisfied your fundamental survival needs, at some point the human experience is always going to provoke or is always going to evoke a desire to express your highest soul's level. And so I think that the middle class has kind of been educated towards, fulfilling their basic survival needs. But at some point, when you have the house and you have the job and you have the paycheck, at some point we all naturally get to the place where we're called to answer the question, why am I here? And the feeling of being stuck is knowing and feeling like there's something more that they want to express, but they don't know how. And this is like one of my businesses. It's called the Freedom Coaching School. And I teach intuitives how to express and how to build a coaching business, how to share their gifts, helping others through coaching, right? And why is that exploding today? Because so
What
many
do you
people
term as an intuitive there? What do you term as an intuitive there? Define intuitive. You're teaching teachers.
There are a lot of people who have naturally been giving advice their whole life. There are a lot of people who are always being asked questions, who their friends and family are always coming to for guidance. And so I call those people intuitives, because they're very good at tuning in to what other people need. And they're just very good at giving advice. That's why people come to them, but they don't know how, and they feel like they want to. Exactly. And they feel like they want to express that gift, and they want, I have a gift for helping people. My gift is helping people tune in to discover their personality code, their unique individual wiring, access their innate divine gifts, right? Well, how did I get there? People were just asking me questions and coming to me for advice my whole life. And I just had this gift of being able to help people understand themselves better than they could on their own. And this is what everybody says to me. They say, I've done more with you in 3 months than I have in 3 years of therapy. Why? I don't know how. It's so. And my point though is that
I can tell.
Thank you. And so we all have, we all have a special gift. We all have several gifts, and we all have something to give to the world. And so, but when we're working very hard and we have our basic needs covered, at some point we all reach the level of how can I give more? What is the thing that will make me feel most fulfilling? And oftentimes, we're working in jobs that don't fulfill us. We're working so hard at something that doesn't feel fulfilling. And I could talk about this stuff. You warned me at the beginning of the show. This could be an hour. It could be 3 hours. We don't know. And this is something that I could do all day. And so what's the famous saying? What should I do with my life? Find something that you love doing, that it never feels like work, and that's really it. So I feel like there's a lot of people today who have come out of the system, and they're working in jobs that don't fulfill them, and they're asking themselves the question, what's my purpose? And that's exactly the kind of question that I help people answer, because that's the question that since I was very young, was asking myself, what's my purpose?
Yeah, no, that's beautiful, man. And just playing along on that, continuing down, because we're kind of breaking each one down just a little bit here. Clayton here, what's the first step in breaking self-sabotage cycles? Did I hit on it a little bit there when I was saying you need to flip that juxtaposition? Oh, I wanted to work that word back in. You got to flip that around and realize that if you're starting to self-sabotage, or you're getting that feeling and then you're recognizing you're self-sabotaging, that you've got to flip that around, right?
Exactly. You're right on target. What's the first step to breaking the self-sabotage cycle? So the first step is recognizing that whatever we resist persists. Whatever you resist persists. And so often when people notice that they're self-sabotaging, oh my gosh, I had this interview and, and I left it to the last minute and I didn't prepare, why do I keep doing this? So the first response when somebody notices that they are sabotaging themselves is they resist it. This shouldn't be happening. This is bad. I shouldn't be here. Why am I doing this again? They get down on themselves. But the truth is, the way to break self-sabotage is to recognize that self-sabotage is your friend. What do I mean? Well, like we talked
Yes.
about before, your ego is just trying to protect you. It's trying to keep you safe, and it's trying to maintain the status quo. So self-sabotage shows up when you are stepping into your next level, when you're doing something that is going to accelerate your growth and accelerate your success, right? You don't get self-sabotage. It's like, if one of my habits is like watching TV late at night and, eating Cheetos, let's say, and I love just sitting on the couch and watching TV and eating snacks, right? There's no self-sabotage when the series when the episode starts and I crack a new bag of Doritos. I don't sabotage that. But when it comes to, I got this great book deal and I just have to write the first chapter, like we put it off to the last minute. Why? Because self-sabotage is your friend. It's your ego trying to protect you from the fear of death, the fear of becoming somebody new. And I don't know how to respond to the world as a famous book author. So the self-sabotage is one of the things that the ego does to protect us from the fear of the unknown, of becoming somebody new. And so the way to break through that is, instead of resisting and getting angry and upset, that believing that this shouldn't happen, what we do is we actually celebrate it. We recognize self-sabotage as our friend. It's our friend using a very
Giving us a
outdated
message.
system.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's the 5-year-old version of ourselves trying to use a 5-year-old's understanding of the world to try to keep us safe for the rest of our life. So instead of resisting it, I say, when I notice it shows up, the way to break self-sabotage is to say, oh, I know, I recognize you. Hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate you for coming along. I know you just want what's best for me. Come along with me. I'm going to take you with me on this journey. I'm going to take the hand of that little 5-year-old boy who's scared about the world and doesn't know what is afraid of what's to come. And I'm going to take you with me on this journey, right? Thank you so much for bringing me this self-sabotage. I don't need that anymore, because I am comfortable being uncomfortable. I'm okay stepping into my fears. And it's not a bad thing that self-sabotage has shown up. It's just an outdated technology that I acknowledge I don't need anymore.
Let me ask you a weird question, or maybe a bad question. Bad meaning hard to answer. I was just thinking, so at some point, I go through your course or to be a teacher, or read your book and go through the process. And what I'm doing by doing that is learning to examine that 5-year-old system. At that point, can I make it a 63-year-old system now? And will I have different reactions to the next fear or self-sabotage moment that comes? Will that look differently, or is it different for everybody? I'm sure,
Well, 1,000%. If you're growing, you're always going to be experiencing fear. So we've been programmed or educated to stay comfortable and avoid discomfort. So as you go on this journey, we learn how to create new responses to comfort, uncertainty, fear, and failure. And so as you continue to grow, right, as I go from 65,000 followers to 650,000 to 6 million followers, right? As I go on that journey myself, and new opportunities show up, and new requests to appear as a podcast guest, right? And as all of these new opportunities show up, there's always going to be fear that I experience anytime I'm growing. What changes is how we respond to that. And so I'll always feel fear, but I understand that fear and
the same
excitement
feeling.
is the
It's
same
the same
feeling.
energy.
What's
Okay.
different is how I respond to it. And so usually we're wired that when we feel fear, well, we want to avoid that and we want to stay comfortable. But now as we go on this journey, we learn how to change our response and we learn how to actually embrace the fear.
Nope. Oh, come on, dude. Pull through. Pull through. Come on, Tel Aviv. Come on, Israel. Give me your signal. Come on. Don't lose me. I love that point. But you guys see where he's going with this, right? I mean, my God, folks, this is an exciting moment. I'm going to take him off till I see him move. Um, this is an exciting, to me, this seems to be an exciting. Hey, if you can hear me, David, why don't you pop off and pop back on? Sometimes that resets things. But we're at a moment here where that juxtaposition that I was talking about, I've used it 3 times in this episode now. I thought I saw something move there. Yeah, he's out. All right. Well, as soon as we get him back on, we'll finish that point. But yeah, I mean, we're right here, folks. So, and it's even better than I thought because it's not like the feeling that fear goes away. It's the same feeling. So it's not like you're learning a whole new set of cycles for yourself or energy for yourself. You're that same fear comes in that's saying, hey, wait, you're becoming bigger than that 5-year-old, that system that I have that was started at 5 years old is now catching up to me. But that emotion that I'm receiving is at that same spot. So now I can recognize it regularly. And if I'm reading this correctly, you could literally be accelerating your advancement once you get through the system of understanding these cycles, these to get this breakthrough, because it's unconscious right now, right? It's happening to you unconsciously, and what you're doing is you're now using the system in its more grown-up state. We got you back, David.
Yeah, wouldn't you know it? Apologies.
It's a beautiful moment there too, and you got me all fired up because I just went on a roll right now. It's like because it's an exciting moment. It's an exciting time when you realize, okay, I got this. This is something that can literally change the results in my life, thus changing my life. So we're back we're back here on the sabotaging cycles, and we're just getting ready to go into, are these patterns different for entrepreneurs versus employers? I don't know if you want to go back and finish your point to Clayton. And because it was I mean, it's awesome, dude. I can't. Sorry for keep saying that. You know this. You live it every day. So I'm experiencing a new message. To me, a not a more refined, not a better, but a logical juxtaposition, a logical approach to what you're talking about people being stuck in the middle class and why that happens, or starting to self-sabotage right when you're getting to a point. The example you use is the interviews. Did you want to finish that point, or did you get most of where you wanted to go there? Are you stuck again? You are. Oh, I think Tel Aviv's having some issues, brother. All right. Um, I'm not going to re-ask him that whole thing again when he comes back on. I think he got most of it. So let's go back to, let's see, where do I want to go from this? Ah, this is so fun. Folks, this is a blast. I mean, you know how big of a deal that is, what he just said right now? I'm doing, I don't remember exactly where I am. Let's see if I can find this. Um, how many shows have I done? Let me go. Sorry, I'm on another screen right now. I know you guys can't tell that, but I want to come here, your videos. I want to come to analytics. And how many videos? Forgot where I find that. We're coming closer to 10,000 subscribers on this here, though. I can tell you that. Where? Oh, I think it shows it on this main page here. Anyway, so we're coming up on, or I think we're at 500 shows now, a little over 500 shows. So I get a lot of opportunities to catch up on the ways that expert guests approach certain subjects or topics. And David, hey, you're back. Oh, you're in a different place.
Yeah, I've never experienced this before, so I just restarted the old system, but it's never happened to me before. But everything happens for a reason, and I apologize for I don't know if it's an internet connectivity issue, but I just logged in from the phone quickly, and I should be back in with the good studio in a second.
I've had to do that a couple of times. Technology is a bitch sometimes, isn't it? So
yeah.
What I was at. Oh, go ahead. Were you gonna finish your point? I was just asking you. Did you want to finish with Clayton, or did you want to move on? And I mean, as far as the self-sabotaging, it's all connected. So it's the same.
I think I answered
but
Clayton's points. Yeah, I think I answered Clayton's points. And yeah, happy to move on to the next question. I think recognizing it is the first key. And yeah.
Oh, wait, you're on twice now. So
yeah, now there we go. You can switch to the.
I'm going to add you on here and remove you there. I think we got you on the right one, right? You good?
There we go.
You good?
One sec. I'm just.
Oh, hey, by the way,
there we go.
While you're doing that,
I hope that lasts.
Yeah, it should. Hopefully, yeah. Otherwise, we got technology to figure it out. You see the private chat over here on the right side, down the right side?
Yeah.
I think it's on your right side. Before we end the show, by the way, we're at an hour and 15 minutes already. It feels like it's 15 minutes gone by. I love this. This is everything I was hoping it would be and more. But on the private chat, would you put in your contact information so I can put it at the end of the chat? I don't know why you can't put it straight into the comments, but I don't know. If you put it in there, I'll copy
chat
and paste it. Private chat. Do you see private chat?
Yeah. What do you want me to put there?
Your contact information. You know from better than anyone. Sure. A month from now, a week from now, an hour after the show, somebody's going to go. They're going to be watching it. You know, it starts back over on views, and they're going to. There you go, perfect. And this is your Instagram. Oh, by the way, just so you know, we are streaming live right now, and every show does this, but we're streaming live to Facebook, to LinkedIn, to YouTube, to X, and to Instagram. We've got about 25,000. We're nowhere near you. We've been doing this about a year, about 500 episodes. I do 6 shows a week, hour to 3 hours long. But
amazing.
Yeah, it's really become a movement. It's really become an amazing experience. Let me just make sure I got this copied right.
Yeah,
here.
Instagram's
That's
probably
correct.
the best place for people to find me and connect with me.
I've got a little bit of a following on there. It's growing, you know. That's your correct Instagram .com. Okay, perfect. So let's get back to business here. Are these patterns different for, and this is a great question. I if you look at this and hover for a second, it really goes to a point, because I think it's the same, because it, whether you're an entrepreneur or an employee, you're different, you're made up different, but you still have these patterns, right? They may be different, but not different.
Yeah, we're always going to be facing the challenges of stepping into our fears, getting comfortable being uncomfortable, stepping into uncertainty, and embracing failure. The difference between entrepreneurs and employees is usually if somebody is already on their entrepreneurial journey, so they're already used to, an entrepreneur is someone who has already taken, at least the first step to step out of their comfort zone and try something new. Maybe an employee is already less familiar with those strategies, and they have an idea, but they haven't yet stepped into actually putting it out into the world. So maybe the employee could be at a different place in their relationship with comfort, uncertainty, fear, and failure. But in the end of the day, when you're on that journey, so everyone is going to be stepping into their fears, stepping into failure. And I would say maybe just employees are less familiar with that journey, conceively. But once you step on the journey, so the journey is the same once you step into it.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of experience difference, but yeah, it's the same journey. And at the end of the day, you said that at the end of the day, you've got to, no matter what your situation is, you still got to address this 5-year-old system that your personality, your ego developed back to protect your brain and your comfort level and all that. At the end of the day, and that's what I was talking about when you were offline, how exciting this is, because it's even better because that fear is the same fear. In other words, you're not, as you're going along and you go through your course and you go through and you make those adjustments and you start participating at a deeper level in your own life, which is kind of the bottom line. Once you establish that point, once you do that, I had asked you, so does it change? Like, let's say I go through the course and things are going along, and then I feel that dread. And then a year later, we've done this work together, and would it now not feel the dread or feel the fear? And you said, no,
Correct.
it's the same.
Your capacity,
you just react different.
your
Go ahead.
capacity for uncertainty will grow, right? The quality of your life is proportional to the level of uncertainty that you're comfortable with. So when you're starting your first business, the uncertainty and the fear of launching your first thing or stepping onto a podcast, that could give you a panic attack, whereas down the road, all of a sudden you're so used to it. And so your response, what generates fear, changes as you grow. So absolutely, your capacity for fear and for uncertainty, it grows. And so too, the things that kind of make you feel that way, that also grows as you grow.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love Kevin's question here. It's really interesting to me. So, how does ancient wisdom stay relevant in modern life? The bottom line is, all of this stuff has been with us for all of our lives and through the human experience. So, in other words, ancient wisdom is wisdom, and it fell out of favor at some point. That's the only reason it becomes ancient, because these things that we need to do as human beings are not new. We are expanding as human beings. But how would you address Kevin's question there?
So I would say that there's nothing new under the sun, right? None of what we're going through today, meaning at the end of the day, this isn't even about ancient wisdom. This is just about people who are asking themselves, who am I? Why am I here? How do I fulfill my purpose? How do I feel more fulfilled in life? How do I increase the quality of my relationships? How do I improve my relationships? Right? Everyone is always asking the same question. It's just that, in olden days, maybe people didn't even allow themselves to ask the question, how can I be more fulfilled? Because they didn't think, that they didn't have an image that life could be any different than it is. And so I don't think that modern life is so different today, because people are still asking the same questions. But I think the ancient wisdom is even more relevant today, because people need access to a user manual for their soul. And the more technology advances, the more distractions there are, the more we need tools to understand how to prioritize what's important and how to actualize ourselves. And the more distractions that there are, the more people get lost in being able to self-actualize. And so these ancient ideas are really the fundamental truths for how to maximize our gifts. It's like the user manual for being human. And the more distractions there are in our world today, the more these ancient ideas become even more relevant for helping us access our potential, for helping access our divine gifts, and for helping us ultimately discover what is the unique purpose that I was given in this world, and how do I actualize it.
Okay, so you're by the way, another word, these are actually building blocks. I mean, just another term that to add to what you were saying. So there's so much to talk about. There's so much to talk about here. It's very, very exciting.
I'm loving this. This is amazing.
This is fantastic. I'm loving this. The building blocks are there, and hold on. Let me back off of that. I'll come back to that in a minute. You mentioned something earlier that I was not aware of. You coach people to coach, or teach people to coach, however you want to say that.
Yeah. I help people. I'm an executive coach. I help people around the world discover their unique purpose and improve the quality of their lives and their relationships. So I work with people. I coach people one-on-one. As well, I also help people who are feeling called to stepping into the journey of becoming a coach and starting a business of using their gifts to help people, and how to kind of step into that. So I also teach people how to become life coaches as well. So I'm coaching people on their personal journeys, and I'm also helping people step into the journey of coaching, if for those that are called to it.
I'm very interested in that. Very interested in that. I'll talk to you about that in the green room, maybe, or something, right? So Daniel, here, let's bring Daniel into the spotlight here. Daniel asks, is procrastination more about fear than motivation? It's interesting he says that, but it's actually, and again, the whole world is flipped upside down now, because like you said, procrastination is the same thing as self-sabotage, right? It's just a different, but it's the same signal coming to you saying, okay, something really good's about to happen. That's why you keep procrastinating, because you're not ready for it. You're right. How would you address
Yes,
Daniel?
Daniel, yes, you're 100% right. Procrastination is one of the ways that self-sabotage manifests.
Yeah.
We all self-sabotage in different ways, and procrastination is probably, one of the golden gems that we all experience. But yes, it is just a form of self-sabotage, and it's not about motivation. You don't procrastinate because you lack motivation. You procrastinate because you are a part of you is afraid of becoming somebody new, and it's always that fear. And so the procrastination is a mechanism that your mind uses to try to protect you from the pain of feeling fear. And so, while I'm afraid of writing this book, I'm afraid of becoming somebody new, so, and that fear is uncomfortable, so here, let's just procrastinate. And that's a mechanism our brain uses to kind of, does that feel better, David? Great, right? Our brain just wants to protect us from that pain.
Yeah. David, this has been an amazing show, dude. Yeah, it's an awesome question. as a like a final comment, you're at an hour and a half here. I think you had almost 2 hours that you before you.
No, I'm
you got a
good.
little bit
I'm
tight on
good.
time.
Keep the questions coming.
Well, I don't see. Let me ask you this: Do you want to expand out into part of your discussions are about God? How does that work in? Who is God to you? That's not a fair question, but it's going to help. It's
Oh, that's a
broad
very
enough
fair
to make
question.
it's broad and it's broad enough to just kind of open up and start a little conversation.
I think the question about who is God is probably the most important question, and it's probably the foundation that most people are struggling with, because the image that most of us have been raised with of who is God is that God is some old man in the sky, disconnected and detached from my life, who's looking down on me, who's judging me, who's punishing me if I don't behave correctly, kind of like a cosmic drill sergeant. And I think that coming to a healthy relationship about who God is and who am I to God is the most important question that we can answer on our journey to, if it's a spiritual growth journey, but also on our journey to living a more fulfilling life. Because if we don't have a healthy relationship with God, so we don't have a healthy relationship with ourselves. And so mystically, according to Kabbalah, there's no such thing as God in existence, right? God is not a thing. Rather, according to Kabbalah, God could be understood as ultimate, timeless reality. God is the space that all of life is happening in. So just like a woman has a womb, and inside of that womb, she's able to give birth to another consciousness, right? And that consciousness, that baby, is unconscious of their connection, right? The baby doesn't understand and experience the mother, but the mother experiences the baby, and then the baby comes, right? What's deeper than unconscious connection? Conscious connection is much more beautiful. And so the baby goes through this scary and painful journey of birth, right, in order to embark on this journey of growing. And this baby grows up and all of a sudden is able to engage in a relationship with its mother, which is so much deeper and so much more beautiful than the relationship it could have when it's, unconscious in her belly. So too, that's really a metaphor for what's happening here. In a way, God, so to speak, is this infinitely loving consciousness that is, that was, and will always be. And that infinite consciousness is given birth to the 8 million souls on this planet, the 8 billion people on this planet. Each one of us, so to speak, are individual babies in God's womb, so to speak. And so all of life, rather than God being there and, most people asking the question, well, God out there, do you see me? Do you hear me? Please, God, can you give me this new job, or I need this promotion, or please help me find love. Most of the people, when they're praying to God, they're praying like a child is asking the parent, like the parent has the candy bar, and we just want, please, daddy, give me the candy bar, as if God has the money and the health and the love that we want, and he's holding out on us. And if I pray hard enough, then he'll give it to me. Rather, according to Kabbalah, all of life exists within that consciousness. And that consciousness is also on a journey through each one of us. According to Kabbalah, that it says that God, who is perfect, was perfect, and will always be perfect. That a better analogy is imagine the king. Right? Imagine there's a king who is the king, was the king, is always going to be the king, but he sees that there's a tremendous joy in the journey of becoming a king. And so the king has his chemists create a potion, and he drinks this potion, and he forgets that he's a king, and he wakes up on a park bench, and he's like, well, what am I doing here? And there's a book beside him, How to Become a King, and in the book it says, well, you got to dress in fine clothes and, behave this way and do this. And he's thinking to himself, well, I don't need some book telling me what to do. But really, this is a book that the king wrote for himself in order to guide him on this journey, because the king saw that there was tremendous joy, not only in being the king, but in also becoming the king. And so according to Kabbalah, each one of us on this planet are aspects of the creator who are going on a journey to become the very best version of themselves. And so it's why all of us are born into some kind of existential trauma or challenge, right? We all have a story. We all have a family history. We all have our own challenges, but your challenges, right? Your imperfections are what make you perfect, because they create the context for your unique journey in life. And according to Kabbalah, your journey is not separate from God's journey, but rather God is on a journey through you and through each of us. And so each one of our individual lives are actually extremely significant to the creator, because they are the journey of the creator. Your journey is God's journey. My journey is God's journey. And it's not that God's looking out disconnected from me, but rather all of this is happening inside of God, and God is very invested in you and in all of the 8 billion people on this planet, and has created a world that it's like a game for each of us to enjoy the never-ending experience of growth and self-discovery, to become the very best versions of ourselves. And that's my relationship with God. And I think that's an analogy that I found to be very, very helpful and very, very inspiring. Einstein says there's two ways. I think it was Einstein. There's two ways you can live your life. Either like everything's a miracle, or like nothing is a miracle. And if nothing's a miracle, then, everything's random. Then that means there is no God, and there's just, we just evolved from apes, and there's no actual intrinsic meaning to life. Whereas if I believe that everything is a miracle, then I believe that we were all created for a purpose, and that purpose is extremely valuable. But it also means that we're being guided, that nothing is happening to us, but rather everything in your life, all of the challenges are actually happening for you. The challenges in your life are actually the greatest gift that the Creator could give you, because your challenges are the opportunities that you have to grow, to accelerate you into becoming the most successful version of yourself.
Let me ask you something, just to kind of add to the picture that you just painted in our minds. During that discussion, you went from a couple of different vantage points to tell this story, and one of them was that a king wanted to find out, hey, it's great being a king, but I wonder what it's like becoming a king. And he drank the potion, and when he woke up on the bench park, he said there was a book there that he had written for himself on how to become a king. And the comment you made is, I don't need a book on how to become a king. Was that particular reference the same reference as what I would call the Bible, the Bible? Is that book, or is that just a different reference? Because I connected that because that was an instruction.
No,
on how, is that what you were
that's exactly what's been called the Bible, the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, the 10 Commandments, right? This is the This is, how,
The
who are
instruction.
we in this world? How are we supposed to behave? Well, who are you to tell me that murder is bad and I shouldn't steal? And right. But actually, this is actually the instruction manual for how
Like that.
to become the greatest version of ourselves. It's like, it's like a caveman. If you give a caveman a Ferrari and he walks out of the cave and he sees his Ferrari, he doesn't have a manual. He doesn't know what it is. And maybe he discovers how to open the door, and like, oh, wow, now when it's raining, I can sit here and I can protect myself from the inclement weather. And then he sees the key in the ignition and he thinks, well, what, maybe it's some glorified toothpick, and he can clean his teeth with it. But if you give him the manual, all of a sudden he's able to unlock so much more potential from this device, right? He can now get places easily. He can help people. He can transport, items and people. And so this really is the user manual. So yeah, that was the reference. You got it.
Okay, man. I because when you said that, I wanted to make sure that was the case, because the womb and the whole picture is the most perfect explanation of who God is that I've ever heard. And I'm not an expert on religion, but I've spent a lot of time I part of my book is on religion, and so it's always been fascinating to me, because all those different religions, every one of them believe in God and have the same exact stories at certain points, but yet we have wars over religion. So that's a whole nother fascination. That's a whole nother show that I would love to dive into, and I have on a number of occasions with people. This show, for what we've gone over today, I'd love to do another one of these as well. What you're talking about here, and I'd also like to talk to you about getting into what you were talking about as far as being a coach. There's been more than I could have expected and hoped for. I love your presence. I love your energy. I could see why you have such a big following. I'd love to borrow some of your TikTokers and invite them to come on over and play in our party too. What would you want to say to your 400 and change fans that you have here, and give a wave before we sign off the show? What do you want to leave people with today?
Well, first of all, I want to say, Rodd, it's been an incredible honor and a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me onto the show. And I've really enjoyed this conversation. And it's so wonderful that you are enabling these kind of conversations to happen in the world. And, the tremendous audience that you've attracted is really, it's really a testament to how needed these conversations are. I would just invite people, if there are any questions that you have or that you've had on this show and that I haven't answered, feel free to send me a message on Instagram. I'd love to answer your questions. I'd love to serve your audience any way that I can. So if you have any questions, I'm happy for you to message me directly. And yeah, it really was an honor. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Why don't you give everybody a big wave? I'm going to wrap her up and I'll come back and join you in the green room. We'll eat some peanuts together.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure. Yes, thank you all for being here. I'll see you in a second. Yeah, that was awesome, folks. Appreciate you guys being here. I talk about this every once. I'm always excited to do this show, and I'm always excited to be in your company and be sitting in the same room with you all and us sharing our time together. Because as David just said, it's a message that obviously is sought after, because there's so much interaction and so much involvement in what we're doing here at the show, and it's nothing that we're doing. We're the conduit. We're just bringing expert guests like David Bederman on today, because normally we don't have this kind of access to this kind of information. I'm fortunate because, like I said, I think it's 500 shows. I got to check that. I think we're at 500 shows. We started September 7th last year, 2024. So we're just over a year and a half-ish right now. with 500 shows. So I'm excited at how it's going. I want to thank our newest sponsor, Leaf Labs. They partner with us in the Regeneration School project, which Dave has a lot to do in this. We're bringing kids up with life lessons and who they are, who they're becoming, as well as how to do a checkbook, how to stuff that matters. That's life. A fifth core project in school, our fifth core program in school: math, English, history, science, and then life. So I'm really, really, really on this journey, on this path right now. But every once in a while, while every one of these shows is this way, every once in a while, David Bederman comes along and really kicks that up to the next level. Really kicks that up to where aha moments happen. Aha. That's a big deal. Or as I said in the opening monologue, jaw-dropping. And that's what this was. It was jaw-dropping because I'm sitting there about a third of the way in, going down this road with David, and then realizing I'm not going down the same road he is. I mean, it's the same road, but I'm looking out a different rearview mirror. And you know how it says the images may be closer than it shows in your rearview mirror? Well, that was David. David was my rearview mirror. It's like right here. And that I'm going to use it one more time. Juxtaposition that happened during that show. This episode was truly fascinating and life-changing. Stay there. This show should be life-changing for you. And with that, this is Insights and Straight Talk. Stay till after the outro video. You guys know I like to do these goofy little things, and I never know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to do it. This is Insights and Straight Talk. My name's Rodd Duff. I'm your host. Producer Barbie's always here, and we love that about her. But with that said, I'm out.
Before you leave, if you'd like to watch another one of the podcasts, click the first link in the description. We love having you here, and we appreciate all your support.
And with that, Producer Barbie and I are out.